Hello and welcome to the TID Water and Power Podcast. I'm your host, Constance Anderson, and on this month's episode, we're discussing the district's key initiatives and milestone projects. 2025 was an important year for the district and set the course for the future of TID. However, with that groundwork laid, 2026 will be just as important with new projects, innovations, and long-term planning. On this episode, I'm joined by TID General Manager Brad Koehn to discuss current long-term initiatives, look back at the successes of 2025, and see what's ahead for TID's water and power operations. Brad, thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Well, welcome back to the TID Water and Power Podcast. We were fortunate enough to pull you into the podcast booth at the celebration of Water and Power and got a little bit of time with you on that episode that aired in December. But you were last officially a guest on the podcast here in the studio in December of 2024, about 6 months after taking over as General Manager of TID. For those who haven't listened to one of your previous episodes, can you tell us about your background?
I'm born and raised in Turlock, a lot of local ties to agriculture, married, 2 children. My career path started in private industry. I'm a licensed engineer and land surveyor and had the opportunity to join the TID team in 2011 in the civil engineering department. And 2017, went up to the power department and dealt with mostly generation and energy markets. That combined with the water experience that I achieved in the civil engineering department gave me the perfect experience to become the chief operating officer in 2020 and then the general manager in 2024. And nothing but great things to say about my career at TID. It's a great place to work.
Excellent. Well, we are happy to have you, and we're happy to have you here in the podcast booth with us.
It's always a pleasure to be in the podcast booth.
All right. Before we get into some of the key projects from 2025 and talk a little bit about what's to come in 2026, I'd like to look back at your first 18 months as general manager. What have your initial priorities been, and what are some of the new roles or responsibilities that you've taken on since becoming GM?
Sure. A couple things. First off, really wanted to focus on the advocacy efforts of the district because it was just something that I didn't deal with very much in my other roles at the district. And so some of the things that I've done in the first year and a half have been really diving into trips to Sacramento, trips to Washington, D.C., and really trying to understand how that whole piece fits together, meeting with our delegation, understanding the political side of our representatives. So that's been really, really fruitful. It's also helped in some of our efforts that live in that space, like Healthy Rivers and Landscapes with the State Water Board, and really those lobbying efforts, getting a little more experience in that area. So that's been one of the focuses. And the second focus has been something that I am much more experienced at, which is the continual optimization and trying to be as innovative as possible in building that culture at the district. I think this is not something that TID it's foreign to TID. It's been a part of our DNA from the beginning, but it doesn't happen just automatically. It really requires that fostering and that continual discussion about solving problems differently than maybe we have before, thinking bigger. Our forefathers did not have a problem with that, and that's why we are where we are today. And many of the decisions that were made were bold decisions, and were industry leading. And so I feel that that's a square burden on my shoulders that we have to continue that legacy because we don't want it. We're not going to benefit from that unless we all continue that.
Absolutely. Very cool. All right. So tell us about some of the big new initiatives that you've been championing over the last year and a half that you've been general manager.
So the two that stand out are they're both similar in the fact that they're long-term planning efforts. And we're calling them the Path to Zero Spill and the Path to Zero Carbon. They are both 20-year plans culminating in 2045.
Okay.
Both of them are looking comprehensively and will be the foundational elements of our actions moving forward.
Okay. Let's get a little bit deeper on each of those then. How about the path to zero carbon? Tell us more about that.
Path to zero carbon is on the energy side, and it is really fundamentally supported by State Bill 100 that was passed that puts our path to zero retail carbon by 2045 as an energy provider. The study that we're pursuing is really answering the basic question of what are the various methods, options that we have to look at to get us to the finish line, but more clearly, how do we get to the finish line while maintaining the mission of the district, which is reliable and affordable energy service to our customers. And so fundamentally, this plan will be looking at every option we can think of that has the potential of getting us to the finish line, but at the same time, focusing on costs. I feel like a lot of these plans that are created across the state really lack that transparency of what is this going to cost the customer. And we want to be very clear and upfront of those costs. And hopefully, we find a path that maintains our affordability and continues to keep the lights on to this ambitious goal by 2045.
Sure. And anything is possible if you have an unlimited pool of funds, right?
Yes.
So balancing the mandates that we're trying to hit, keeping our rates affordable to the people who depend on our services, and also maintaining that high standard of reliability is not an easy task.
14 of our 17 communities served being disadvantaged just keeps it front and center that affordability is something that cannot be wavered.
Absolutely. Okay, so then what about on the path to zero spill side?
So the path to zero spill is on the water side, and it is really developing a plan to close our system. And what I mean by closing our system is our 250 miles of concrete-lined canals are well over 100 years old. They were built to spill. They are a gravity system. Mm-hmm. And what that means is when supply exceeds demand, we spill to the river. And on average, that's about 45,000 acre feet a year.
That's substantial.
For perspective, that's about 4 inches as it's spread across the irrigated acreage of TID. So definitely significant. And
Sure.
in, even further perspective, an 18-inch year like we had in 2015, available water to our farmers.
Which is drought conditions.
Which is full drought conditions. A couple of those 4-inch years being saved in Don Pedro, that 18-inch year is maybe 26 inches. And that's significantly different for our farmers.
Yeah.
So how do we close the system? That's really what this plan focuses on.
Okay.
Automation of drops, automation of side gates, automated scheduling and ordering. These are big changes, and they won't happen overnight. Obviously, this is a 20-year plan, and 250 miles of canal. It takes a while to make this happen, but the investment for the ability to save that water is really the driver of that. And really, we're saving as much water as possible because there is regulatory pressures where we will not have as much water in the future as we have now. And that's really regulatory pressures and climate change.
Sure. And I would have to imagine with some of these updates to the infrastructure that goes along with this path to zero spill would also help potentially improve service and just kind of efficiency overall.
Yeah, the main driver, again, water savings, but some of the byproducts are going to be also big things like water quality improvements, customer service improvements, workforce efficiencies, all byproducts of saving the water.
Okay. All right. So before we get too far into the upcoming projects that will support both of these paths, the path to zero spill and the path to zero carbon, let's talk about a few notable projects from 2025. We saw some interesting results regarding salmon in the Tuolumne River this last year. Can you tell us what happened with the 2025 spring run?
Yeah, we were very pleased to have 1,200 spring run salmon come up the Tuolumne this last year.
Wow.
And that was really evidence of what we've been saying for a long, long time, which is the lower Tuolumne does have suitable habitat for spring run salmon. We were a little lucky in the fact that we had a very well-timed pulse flow, which is an excess release in the Tuolumne, and that was well-timed. And again, 1,200 spring run, and it was really neat to see. I got to visit the site, and even from 100 feet up on the banks of the MID Canal, it was impressive to see the density of salmon thriving.
That many salmon in the river. That's cool.
Yep.
That's cool. And just in case any of our listeners might be confused, the pulse flow, we're releasing more water than would typically be in the river, but that's attractive to the salmon. That's something that's going to draw them up the river.
That is its intention. It was just very well timed.
Very good. Excellent. All right. So financially, TID, as we've talked about already, is always looking for ways to keep costs affordable for our customers. And we saw a big win in that area in 2025. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we moved forward what's called a prepay agreement or prepay process, where it's a very complicated, very paperwork intensive process, but for the benefit of our customers, it was definitely well worth it. And at its basic form, it is leveraging TID's tax exempt status and our tax exempt ability to borrow into a taxable or with a taxable partner, and then taking that savings and applying it to a commodity, and in this case, it was natural gas, and receiving a discount or a reduction in what we would already be paying for natural gas. And so just in perspective, that has will equal $90 million over the next 10 years.
Wow.
So not just a small savings, a significant savings for our customers. So really excited that this goes back to this optimization. This is something this wasn't a mandate. This was something that was pursued, significant level of effort. But again, one of those areas, looking at every nook and cranny under every rock to save our customers money.
Absolutely.
And keep that affordable price where it is now.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Fantastic. All right. So in addition to those two, there were also some big steel in the ground infrastructure projects that were completed in 2025. Can you tell us about Roding Substation?
Roding Substation got a major overhaul, and at its completion, it added 20 megawatts of capacity in an area that really needed it. Roding Substation is in the community of Ceres, and Ceres is growing significantly. A lot of commercial development in that area, and we're happy that we could, again, optimize an asset to be able to meet the growth needs of our community. So that's online, and again, significant project, but significant benefit as well.
Great. And then here's one that we've been working on for a few years now and has received a lot of attention over those years. Project Nexus.
Project Nexus had a big year. Both sites, the narrow span and the wide span, are online now and generating clean electrons to our customers. Again, a huge milestone, very media covered project, lots of tours, and rightly so, because it's very innovative, and happy to say that we are gathering data from all of the instrumentation on the project. That includes temperature, water temperature, air temperature, aquatic growth reduction, solar production, the difference between the solar panel that's over a humid canal system versus on typical ground mount. Hundreds and hundreds of pieces of data and we'll be using that data to develop what is the net cost of this project. I mean, it's not a secret. It's expensive to span a canal system and put solar panels over the top.
Sure.
But all these additional benefits are offsetting some of those costs, and we're really excited to see what that net cost comes out. And we're in the final stages of that report that will be a public report that will, and a lot of people are waiting for that report to see how did this work?
Yeah,
is this
absolutely.
something that can be scaled? Is this something that can flourish amongst the hundreds and hundreds of miles of water conveyance in the state?
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand that the project even was recognized with an award recently.
Yeah, we got Aqua's Innovation Award and was happy. I was pleased enough to be able to go to the conference and receive that award. That was quite an honor.
Very cool. That's great. All right. So in 2025, TID reached the end of their 2020 to 2025 strategic plan. Similarly, you're in the process now of finalizing the 2026 to 2030 strategic plan. Before we get into what's included in each of those, how does TID use its strategic plan, and why is that an important tool for the district?
Strategic planning, as you mentioned, it's a 5-year, so it doesn't happen. We don't develop strategic plans annually. It's really meant to take a macro look at the district. Most of us as utilities, our mission and vision doesn't change very often. It's, again, reliable and affordable power and water, and that may likely never change.
Sure.
But below that, when you start looking at some strategic objectives and goals of the district, it's an opportunity for us to, every 5 years, reset and think, what is the focus of the district? There's obviously going to be the day-to-day things that we do to keep the lights on and the water flowing, but alternatively is, where are we focusing and what are the trends that we're seeing in the next 5 years? A SWOT analysis is a part of our strategic planning, which is looking at our strengths and weaknesses. That's kind of an internal look. And then the opportunities and threats, which is the external look. And really, it's how do you leverage your strengths? How do you mitigate the threats that are coming? And it is a unique process to go through and think this way. We don't think this way all the time. And we did so with a full day board workshop. So It's an opportunity for us as a management team to do it with our board of directors.
Great.
They get to weigh in on what their priorities are, and we get to kind of weave this all together into a plan that shows those that read it, including our own employees, where we're focused and where we should be focused for the next 5 years.
No, that's great. And as you've already mentioned, you have the path to zero spills, you have the path to zero carbon. So you have already identified some of these farther reaching milestones. And it seems like the strategic plan are kind of those 5-year chunks to really make sure that you're making progress towards the even larger goal.
Yes. And as we move into this new strategic plan, there'll be check-in sessions where we present, how we're doing on certain metrics and an ability for the board to see progress. And it's also a living document. As things change, it's not meant to be a stagnant document that sits on a shelf. It's meant to be looked at. And if things change, then it should change with it.
Sure. Absolutely. Okay. So as you guys are just kind of wrapping up that strategic planning process, can you give us a sense of the direction from the board and the management team as to some of the priorities that they've identified for the next 5 years?
Yeah. Some of them may seem pretty obvious, but we had a lot of discussion around the themes that you've probably already got the feel of in our path to zero spill and path to zero carbon, which is we will not have as much water as we're used to. So how do we save as much as possible? How do we gain efficiencies in water delivery so that we can meet those additional demands or threats in a fashion where our customers still have the level of reliability that they're used to? And then on the energy side, how do we get to that extremely ambitious goal while protecting the affordability of the district? We're really proud to be one of the most affordable utilities on the energy side in the entire state of California. And that means something to us and our customers. And we cannot jeopardize that as we move through these mandates. And so those were two big themes in the strategic planning session with the board.
Absolutely. Now, I want to double back to something you've mentioned a couple times now. We've talked about the mandates on the energy side that TID is tasked with meeting. But you've said a couple times now that we won't have in the future the amount of water that we have today. And what's setting up that scenario? What's creating that?
So two things are really driving that. One is, and there's a lot of different words for it, climate change, global warming. And again, we don't really talk a whole lot about the causes because sometimes that becomes very political.
Sure.
But we just look at data, and the data at the district, and we have tons of it for over 100 years. Hydrology isn't the same as it was before. And maybe it will revert in the next 100 years. But at this point, we feel it's our job as the staff of TID to plan for that changing hydrology. And the hydrology is moving to a less snow dominant watershed and to a more rain dominant watershed. Not all at once, but that is the shift. And making sure that we do everything we can to optimize an asset like Don Pedro to be able to be flexible enough to capitalize on that, or at least mitigate the risk of being able to capture that runoff however it comes down.
Sure.
And the second portion is regulatory in nature. As most people know, we are relicensing the Don Pedro project, and that has been a well over a decade process, and we're still not at the finish line. And we have, the State Water Quality Control Board that's been a struggle. They issued the 2018 Bay Delta Water Quality Plan that showed a flow-only solution, 40% unimpaired flow down the river. We have subsequently presented the Healthy Rivers and Landscape, the voluntary agreement option, which is not just flow. It's more water, more habitat, more fish.
Yep.
And we have great traction on that. The scientific basis report was released by the Water Quality Control Board, and a lot of positives. They recognize it has a lot of positives. It has a lot of things better than the Bay Delta plan. So we're in the process. We're gaining ground. We're negotiating options. We're looking at alternatives, and I'm positive that within the next year we're going to get something approved through the state board.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good to hear. I know it's been a long fight to get there, so It'll be nice to see that come to resolution.
So that was a long way of saying those two items, regulatory and the changing hydrology, are the two reasons why I've said we won't have as much water in the future.
Yeah. Well, and I imagine that Healthy Rivers and Landscapes, getting that wrapped up and completed is one of those key projects on the path to zero spill. It all kind of ties together as far as the water savings, the having more water available in the future.
Yep. The path is approval of HRL implemented in our 401 water certification that then gets implemented in our Don Pedro license, and we have certainty for our customers for the next 40 years.
Absolutely. All right. So staying on kind of the theme of those big projects that sort of lead into that path to zero spill, tell us about the Total Channel Control Series Main pilot project.
Oh, super excited about that project as it's just about to kick off this next water season. It is a very specifically located pilot directly downstream of the new Series Main regulating reservoir. And it will be taking that section of canal and bringing it to what we call a fully automated canal system. Total channel control isn't new to the district. We have that on downstream of the lateral 8 regulating reservoir, but that is a in-channel automation where it's the drops only are automated.
Okay.
So that is taking the in-channel automation and adding two components: automated side gates, automated scheduling and ordering to that. Again, for that benefit of additional water savings. And this pilot will be, when completed and operational, will be the first fully automated canal system in the United States.
Wow.
So super innovative. It will change how our customers do business with the district. And we have had significant communications with the group that this affects. And they are obviously very interested, as it will change how they do business with the district, but also very supportive because they all understand how important it is to save water.
Absolutely.
And being a part of a project like this is exciting. So really, really excited to see that kick off, and then us learn from that pilot to support the decisions we make as we continue down the path to zero spill.
Absolutely. And I would think, in addition to the water savings aspect of this automation, there would be additional benefits for the growers in this pilot area with regard to that automation, to making the process more streamlined, more efficient.
Yes, there is a huge level of service aspect as well. They will have an ability to be more selective in their scheduling. They will be able to pick a time, a day and a time, which it doesn't exist currently in the way we do business. So that's an additional area. The gates will operate on their own. They will be communicating with the Rubicon Total Channel Control System via their mobile device.
Very cool.
So it's the next level.
Awesome.
Yep.
Oh, that is exciting. All right. So you mentioned the Lateral 8 regulating reservoir and the Series main regulating reservoir. What's coming in the future of regulating reservoirs for the district next?
Our third one.
All right.
We have designed, and we've done this probably the last couple of years. We've had it designed. It's kind of one of our. Another thing to touch on is we've started kind of a different strategy on getting projects ready to build, and that is getting them shovel ready, which is designed and through CEQA, the CEQA process, because then it allows us to ship them out for grant opportunities.
Okay.
And then in many cases, like lateral 5.5 reservoir that we're talking about, we weren't successful the first submission, and we weren't successful the second submission, and we were successful on the third. So it gives us that opportunity to get kind of a backlog or a tranche of projects that are ready, and then pursue grant funding and have an ability to wait till you receive the grant funding, and then you build them at a much cheaper cost because of that.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened with the lateral 5.5 reservoir. It's a reservoir lower in the system, so it has numerous benefits. Obviously, water savings is the biggest benefit. It's a 35-acre reservoir down lower in the lateral 5 system, and where we typically would have a decent amount of groundwater pumping, which at times has developed some water quality. The water quality is lower with the groundwater pumping ratio that we do down there. So providing this storage of surface water that low in the system improves water quality significantly. So that's a huge benefit in addition to the water savings component of the other regulating reservoirs.
Oh, that's great. And what stands out to me about those two projects that you just mentioned, and you even said it yourself, it points back to that innovative spirit, that innovation that you talked about at the top of the episode. As you mentioned, TID has already built 2 regulating reservoirs in the last 10 years. And at the time, that was a new concept for the district. We tried it. We made adjustments. The projects proved themselves out in terms of value, even exceeded the anticipated value in some cases. And we're moving forward now with 5.5 with our next regulating reservoir. And the implementation of the total channel control automation is another example, as you mentioned, of TID blazing trails with innovative cutting-edge projects.
Yep.
Awesome. So let's flip over now to the upcoming projects on the power side. Let's start with the Don Pedro Life Extension.
The power plant and appurtenant structures at the Don Pedro project have been at their end of life for the last 5 or 10 years, and we've been upgrading them in a very systematic fashion, starting with the large protection gates, the bulkhead gate, the incline gate, some of those large structures, many of them within the reservoir. And now we're moving into the power plant. And that's the part that is I would say the biggest portion of the project. It is the turbine and generator packages. And just in total, we will be replacing all 4 units, and that will be adding 60 megawatts of additional capacity to an already carbon-free resource, which is significant for the district. And we just hit a milestone about a couple of weeks ago. Unit 2 is the first unit to be replaced, and it spun its last revolution, which was neat to see. You know, it's obviously done its duty for 50 years. And now we're ready to put the next one in for the next 50 years.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, it'll be neat to see. Obviously, this is not something that's happening all in one shot. This is going to be a multi-year project that will continue for a while now. So it'll be neat to see as each unit gets replaced and comes offline and is replaced with the upgraded newer units.
The plan is late 26, bringing Unit 2 the new Unit 2 online, and then the other 3 units year by year. And so by the end of 2028, we should have all of them back online.
Wow.
Yeah.
A fully new plant.
Fully new dispatched power plant, higher capacity for the next 50 years. These are some of those large projects that are generational in nature.
Absolutely.
This will serve many generations to come with, again, carbon-free resource fits directly in the path to zero carbon.
Absolutely. No, that's awesome. All right. And then going back to the financial side of things, the direct pay investment tax credit, production tax credit. Tell us about that.
This is another one of those complicated ones like the prepay we talked about earlier. But so the production tax credit and investment tax credit is typically a mechanism for taxable entities to get tax credit for renewable energy projects or green energy projects. Recently, large hydro was highlighted and added to this, and because typically it was solar and wind was where that was focused. And so with the addition of large hydro, and the addition of the ability for us as a tax-exempt entity to now get the similar benefit as a taxable entity. Those two things, those two changes now brought the Don Pedro Life Extension directly into the bullseye of this program. And so we are planning to submit, we're well along the process, but planning to submit each unit of the Life Extension project into this direct pay program. Where we get similar benefits to a taxable entity to the tune of $80 to $100 million over the entire project.
Wow. All right. So you mentioned the completion of Roding Substation earlier in our discussion. Are there some additional substations that are in the works for 2026?
Yeah, we have 2 new substations in the planning and design phase currently. We have one in the South Modesto Ceres area. We are in land procurement phase with that. And again, that's to support that growing area of Ceres. And these projects are 4 to 5 years. So getting them started as quickly as possible, anticipating where that load growth is going to come. These are big decisions. And so happy to say that the South Modesto Ceres area will be one of those substation locations. And the second is in the Patterson area. And if you've ever driven down I-5, you know that Patterson is growing. I mean, there's
crazy growth,
multiple million square foot buildings, large distribution centers, and large subdivisions coming. And so that's a growth area of the district. And so adding that capacity in that area is for the exact same reason. Anticipating where that growth is, working with municipalities to know where their next general plan growth area is, and being able to start those projects so you're as proactive as possible for that growth.
Sure. And you mentioned, some of these large distribution centers, these commercial locations, industrial locations. We've received some pretty significant requests for interconnection from some of these larger operations. How does that impact where TID is looking to put a substation or making those decisions?
Yeah, there has been, I always use this analogy that it wasn't much longer than 10 years ago when a 2 megawatt customer was a very large customer for us. And it's not uncommon for us to get 10 megawatts, 60 megawatt requests.
Wow.
And so these energy intensive customers makes it very difficult to, just for perspective, 60, 80 megawatt customer, that's an entire substation.
Jeez. So
it makes it very difficult to plan when it's not just general growth. That's
right.
Very intense growth areas. And depending on the location, sometimes the answers to those customers it's 4 to 5 years, unfortunately. So in this case, we are receiving a lot of those in the Patterson area, and this new substation will definitely help with some of those to kick. But in many cases, the answers are it's 4 to 5 years before we can serve that load.
Another project that is kicking off in 2026 is TID's Demand Response Program. What can you tell us about that?
That's another what I would call an innovative way of meeting our customers' needs as load grows. On the demand side of things, that's where this project will come into play by being able to partner with our customers in times where load is potentially exceeding our ability to serve it. And in this case, Grid Partners is the program's name, and it's partnering with some of our large customers on one side of the program, which allows them to shed a certain amount of load, and the district pays them for that amount because there's a benefit to the district in those certain times where load is high.
Sure.
And on the residential side, it is a thermostat program where they can sign up for the program, and the district has an ability to manipulate their thermostat to a point when load is high to reduce load on the demand side. Again, there's opt-outs in the program, and there's a lot of details more than what I'm going to describe. But if anyone's interested, please look at our website for that information.
Absolutely. And specifically, they can go to tid.org/demand response. All right. So as we've mentioned, a number of these projects that TID is undertaking are massive multi-year projects. There are two in particular that I wanted to ask you about. First, can you tell us what EDAM stands for and what that means to the district?
That is the Cal ISO's Extended Day Ahead Market. It is the big brother to the Cal ISO EIM market, which we are a part of, and that is the Energy Imbalance Market. And these are regional markets that we join and have an ability to get access to imported energy when it's cheaper than we can produce it for, and access to be able to sell additional capacity from our system into the market when it's good to do so. What the extended day ahead market is different than the EIM market is it takes it from a 5-minute market, which is what EIM is, all the way to a day ahead market. So it'll really change how we procure energy on a regional market. And the benefits to our customers will be significant. And so it's, again, this regionalization of energy markets to be able to get access to markets that we don't have access to now.
Okay. And when you talk about regional market, can you kind of give us an example of what that region is? Is that like Stanislaus County, Merced County, San Joaquin County, or how big does that get?
Western United States. So California specifically, but it does extend into the states surrounding California. So Western United States.
All right. So the other project that I wanted to ask you about, and because we love our acronyms, AMI. Tell us about that.
AMI stands for Advanced Metering Infrastructure, and that are the meters on all of our customers' sites that is the ability for us to know how much of our product you're using. And the real reason why the AMI project is kicking off is because the existing meters that are in place are at their end of life. And so it's a necessary replacement of all of the meters throughout the district. But the cool part about it is they will do significantly more than the old meters, just like every other piece of technology around us. Data is something that is advancing tenfold.
Sure.
And so you may ask, why do we want more data from a meter? You just need to know how many electrons go through it. In many cases, our customers call in and want to know why my bill's so high. And these meters will give us more insight into even the specific uses that meter is serving, to be able to have us troubleshoot and potentially find energy efficiencies options for our customers.
Great.
So really excited about that additional information we'll be getting from the new meters.
Oh, that's excellent. So it really will help our customers kind of identify some of their own habits and how they might be able to amend those for energy savings purposes.
Absolutely.
Oh, very cool. Most of our listeners probably already know that DPRA, the Don Pedro Recreation Agency, is a joint entity between TID and our partners on the Tuolumne River, Modesto Irrigation District, and the City and County of San Francisco. I'm excited to ask you about what is going on at DPRA in 2026.
We are excited and have been working on this for quite a while, and it is the new visitor center at Don Pedro.
Nice.
Unfortunately, we did lose the existing visitor center in a fire in 2016 and have been back and forth with insurance settlements and design from then to now, but we are right upon the kickoff of, and could be within a month of groundbreaking on the new visitor center. And it will not be in the existing location of where the old one was. It'll be within the Fleming Meadows camping area, which again is much closer to where the customers are. And it will have a great view of the reservoir. It will be adjacent to where the trading post is currently, which the project will actually include a renovation of that trading post as well.
Oh, okay.
A couple of new features in the visitor center. There will be a large venue area that can actually be rented as well from the public. So really looking forward to getting that kicked off and getting that built. It's scheduled for completion summer of 2027.
Okay, great. Well, we very much look forward to hearing about that progress. That's great. And speaking of DPRA, or specifically the reservoir, I know a question that's on the minds of our local growers this time of year is always the state of the reservoir from a storage perspective and what water will be available for the irrigation season. I know the irrigation season hasn't officially been set yet, but can you give us some insider knowledge as to what kind of a water year we're anticipating?
Yeah, it's a little early, but the water year started off pretty well. We had some really significant storms at the end of December and the beginning of January, and it pushed us clear up to the flood control line. We actually had to make some additional river releases as well. And we're currently as full as we can be right now. The caveat is we're about 60% of our snowpack to date. So we need a couple more cold storms to get that snow to stick up in the mountains so that we can get that full runoff in June and fill the reservoir. Couple more storms though, and we could be looking at pretty confidently a full available water year for our growers.
Okay, that's great.
Very, very hopeful.
Good. Excellent. All right. So I know as general manager, you've got a lot of irons in the fire, and we've really just kind of scratched the surface here of what's going on at TID right now. But we really appreciate you carving out some time for us. Any parting thoughts for our listeners before we wrap up?
I think I'd just like to say again one more time that, we're trying at the district to be as innovative as possible. I'm trying to build a culture of This is a great place to work. We have tremendous amount of history at the district, being the first and oldest irrigation district in California, and so many bold and innovative decisions that have happened over time. And just making sure that, sitting in the GM seat, that I take that very seriously, that we each take our share of continuing that legacy, because we wouldn't be able to say we have the highest level of reliability and some of the most affordable services if it weren't for those decisions.
Sure.
And I want every GM for the eternity of TID to be able to say the same thing.
Absolutely.
And in closing, would like to also thank all the staff at the district. We have exceptional workforce at TID, and I wouldn't be able to be on this podcast and say any of the things I'm saying if it weren't for the staff making that possible. So thank you very much.
Right on. Well, Brad, thank you so much for taking time out for us. We enjoyed having you here and look forward to your next visit.
Always enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the TID Water and Power Podcast. You can find TID on Facebook at facebook.com/TurlockID, on Instagram at TurlockID, and on LinkedIn as the Turlock Irrigation District. I'm your host, Constance Anderson. We'll see you again next time.